This Bryce is corrupted, and we're not reading any of it.
I'm sorry that I forgot to record the whole time. We're ending off already almost, but just as much as we could do. I didn't realize that I hadn't recorded it. Yes, Levi.
So the Bryce, what are we doing? It's
So now
corrupted.
we're gonna go.
So how do you do the
Not
Bryce?
the Bryce, the text. Oh, the Bryce. You're right. This is now going to the Bryce. We're on Daf. What is it?
Yudam
Beis. We're right before the Mishnah. So Tanya, so far that's good, right? That's the same text as the Ran.
Because this is
Bimohi, and also continue. Bim mumsa, also not good. You have to put in the words. Here it says bimumsa dama mohi. These words bimumsa dama mohi. This doesn't read. So we're going to say bimumsa is also lo maklum. That's what most of the kisveyat say. Bimohi is not good. Bimumsa is not good. But if he says mohi, that's good.
Oh, the base messes up.
The base messes it up. But if he said mohi or he said mumsa, that is avela kinu English war. So you just say make an asterisk and say, look, in the Ran's Girsa, that's the Girsa that most of the manuscripts have. Okay, up to the Mishnah on Yudam and Beis. Omer. Now here, the word lichulin, just to make it simple, we'll put in the word lo chulin. The Dalet does that. The Dalet over here, where's the Dalet? Is there a Dalet? Here's the Dalet. Lo chulin. So instead of lichulin, we're going to make it easy today. Tomorrow might be complicated. I didn't get it. But lo chulin she'ol chalach. This is a lamdish guy that he doesn't say. We're trying to find the word that he's saying that it's also. It's also like a korban. So usually, what do you want to do? That if I'm going to eat for you, whatever I'm going to eat of yours is hektish. Okay, it's like a korban. That's the way to make something also with a neder. But this guy was a fancy guy. He said not chulin, lo chulin. But aleph, and like two words, lo chulin, not chulin. But that which I'm going to eat of yours is lo chulin. What does lo chulin mean? Lo chulin means that it's holy. So it's another way of saying that it's asa. Or to say lo kosher. Or he says lo dechay. Or he says lo tor. You can put the word lo here also, lo tor. That they say that all these things are also terms of saying a korban. And it means lo chulin means that it's holy, means it's korban. Or lo kosher means something which, now the word kosher, we use the word kosher to mean if it's kosher to eat or not. But really, kosher is opposite of puzzle, and that doesn't apply to chulin. That applies to something which is kodesh, a korban. These things could be kosher puzzle. So he thinks the things that could be not kosher is another way of saying hektish, or to say lo dechay. Dechay means tor. You could have tor and tamei also by chulin, but it doesn't make such a difference. The main difference is
not
kosher means puzzle, but it also doesn't mean puzzle. It means something which could become not kosher, which means kodesh. It means these are all terms of saying kodesh, korban. Korban could be puzzle, a korban could be lo kosher. Lo kosher means puzzle. A korban could be not tor. Well, the word tor is lo tor. All these things. So these are terms of saying korban. So when a person makes something a neder and he says this thing should be lo chulin, or it should be lo kosher, or it should be lo dechay. Dechay is the Aramaic for the word tor, or lo tor. Put in the word lo tor, lo over there also if you want. So all these cases are a good neder because he was matfisid. He seized it upon something which is holy, which is a korban. Even though he didn't say kodesh, he said lo chulin, or he said lo kosher, or he said lo dechay, or lo tohor, or if he said tamei noser pigul, those things which the tamei noser pigul apply to, which means kosher. If you have a korban, so it can become tamei, it can become noser, which means leftover. It can become pigul, or someone had the wrong thoughts of what the halachas. He said if had a thought that he's going to eat it out of the right time, so it becomes pigul. Whatever, we'll learn those halachas eventually. So all these things are the halacha of all these things is that it becomes the neder takes effect. It's another way of saying korban. It gets a little bit simpler now. And the first point was that he said the opposite. They said the opposite. The Gemara is going to go into the point called because he derived that if from the negative you could derive the positive you could derive the negative. He says what are you going to eat to you is not chulin. So not chulin means hektish. The next cases are examples of other things. Again, the way a person asks a korban, asks something the neder, he says it to be also like a korban. So these words are going to be chidushin that is considered as if he said a korban. The other way is some chidushin. To say lo chulin is another way to say korban. To say lo kosher, all these things are ways to say a korban. Also, ke'imru, these are many examples. Ke'imru, ke'dirim, ke'etzim, ke'ishim, ka'mizbeach, ke'hechal, ke'yushalayim. All these cases also, no the bechad mikol sham sham mizbeach. All these cases, afish lo hisker korban, All these cases are examples of saying something which in what's the word that it not the word in English, but it in what's the word in not the word insinuate, but it's hinting to okay, I don't get the word, but the point is that it's referring to a korban. So Imra is a sheep. So if he says it should be like a sheep, which sheep is he talking about? Obviously, he's talking about a sheep, which is a korban. And if he says Kedirim, the idea is the pen, the place, the corral, the place where the sheep are kept. So what it doesn't mean chulin sheep. It means sheep of the Beis Hamikdash. If he says ke'itzim, which kind of wood? Which should be like wood. Which wood? The wood of the Beis Hamikdash. Ke'ishim, like the fire offerings, like a korban. K'mizbeach. What does he mean? The korbanos that are brought on the mizbeach. Kehechal, the Beis Hamikdash. Kivushalayim. All these things are referring to korbanos. So if he said all these words, that this should be to me like the hechal, this should be to me like Kivushalayim, this should be to me like sheep, like the sheep, like the dirim, like the eitzim. All these words are code words for korbanos, and therefore the neder takes effect. It's all nadav korban. All these cases is nadav korban. I raise that even though and also I missed one more. If he said nadav echad mikol sham shem ezbeh, that's one case that he made a neder, making it like one of the utensils of the mizbeach, which they say is like the machta, the fire pan, whatever it might be. All of the king leaves on the mizbeach. So that's another. How many examples do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eight examples. And all these 8 examples, afal pi shelo hiskeh korban. In all these cases, he didn't say the word korban. Raise another korban. All of it is considered that he's asking it like a korban because that's what he means. When he says the word imra, he says the word dirim. That's what he means to say. I guess it might be considered a kino. It's not like the others. This is more like a kino. And instead of saying korban, he said kimra. That's what he means. Rabbi Yehuda seems to argue. We'll get to that later. Rabbi Yehuda seems to argue. It said a second ago, Ki Yerushalayim. The Mishnah, the Tanakhama said, Ki Yerushalayim does make it also. Ki Yerushalayim. And here, Rabbi Yehuda says, Yerushalayim lo Amar Klum. So the Rosh over here, we'll see the Gemara, but the Rosh, you could learn the Mishnah that he's not coming to argue. He's saying Ki Yerushalayim. But if he said Yerushalayim without a kaf, without saying Ki Yerushalayim, so then he didn't say anything. He said, this is Yerushalayim, and this is not Yerushalayim. If you say this is like Yerushalayim, then you mean to say that it's going to be also like Yerushalayim, or means like the Karbanos of Yerushalayim. So you could say that he's not arguing, but we'll see. We'll see the Gemara in a couple of more minutes. So what did the Mishnah say? That you don't have to say the word korban literally to make something also like a korban. You could say something which, what's the word? Which implies. Thank you. That's it. Implies. Thank you. That implies. So all these cases is that it implies. If you say not chulin, you mean a korban. If you say not kosher, not there, all these things mean the korban, and then it gives another 8 examples. Ke'imra, ke'dirim, ke'etzim, all these things. The last thing Rabbi Yehuda says is Yerushalayim, which l'chor is not only Yerushalayim. He means to go on all of them. He means to say that you say ki Yerushalayim, but if you say Yerushalayim not, if you say ke'etzim, but if you say eitzim not, ke'dirim, ke'imra, but if you left out the kaf, you left out the prefix, then you didn't say anything. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Of course, the Maisa, people don't do all these things. So I don't know how relative it is, the Maisa. The Gemara starts off, Shavua Mai Lechulin, Lo Lechulin, Lehevi Ela Korban. That's Shavua means that they thought. Usually when it says Shavua means that it's going to change. Here it's not going to change. The Pasha says it's not going to change. Some say it does change later on, but you can take it that it does not change. And the Pshat in the Mishnah, the reason why he said Lechulin, which we said Lo Chulin, it means lo lechulin lahavi ela korban, that we take what he means, what he's implying. That he says lo chulin, that means to say that is a korban. What's not chulin? A korban is not chulin. So that's what he meant to say. That this thing should be lo chulin. What should it be? Like a korban, and that's good enough. The rest of the Mishnah, the reason why it's good, why it takes it, what does good mean? The reason why it takes effect, that's a good neder, is because when he said lo chulin, he meant a korban. And now the Gemara goes in that's not so simple. To say lo chulin means a korban is not simple. There's a cloud, there's a rule. Question is if you hold of it. There's a rule called Michlala Bat Shemeyahin. Let me just highlight that. Michlala Bat Shemeyahin. You could derive from the negative the positive. Like if you say under certain circumstances now. Okay, from the negative you could derive the positive. I'm sorry, I left out one word.
It's from general rule.
Maybe not.
So
From the negative,
love.
from the negative, you could derive the positive. There's a lav and a hain. If the Rebbe says whoever doesn't
Do his homework.
Cannot go on the trip, so you can derive that whoever does do his homework is going to go on the trip. That's called machlal lav atashamayim. So the words that would be the pshat on Mishnah, that if you say that this thing should not be chulin, that means that it should be kodesh, it should be a korban. But the Gemara is going to say it can't be Rav Meir, because Rav Meir doesn't hold this rule. Rav Meir does not hold machlal lav atashamayim. Itnan, Rav Meir Omer, kol tanai she'enu k'tanai b'nei gad b'nei ruven enu tanai. This goes back to the Parshas Matos. I think then the Parshas Matos. There says that Bnei Gad Bnei Ruvain, they wanted to keep the land on the Transjordan, on the east of the Jordan, and they asked Moshe Rabbeinu that they could stay. Moshe Rabbeinu was very angry. And then after they explained they're going to go to war. So he said, if you're going to go to war, then you could have this Transjordan. If you don't go to war, then you cannot, then you're going to get a nachla on the west. He said both ways. He didn't just say one way. He said both ways. And that's called Tanai Gad, B'nei Gad, B'nei Ruben. That's the condition that was made by B'nei Gad, B'nei Ruben. It was a double condition, that it was explicit, that both ways. The positive is this way, the negative is this way. So Rav Meir says that every condition has to be a double condition. It has to be explicit, the positive and the negative. You don't say that I could derive the opposite. Rav Meir does not hold Machlal B'at Hashem. How do you know? Because he says that you have to have a double condition. Every condition has to be explicitly both sides. So the Gemara is asking, if so, our mission has to fit Rav Meir. Our mission that says that if you say lo chulin, it means carbon. That's only if you hold Michlal B'at Hashem. But Rabbi Meir doesn't hold that. So the mission can't be Rav Meir. Okay, so far the Gemara is happy. And David, are you happy?
I think so. Matt doesn't know about this. He doesn't know this.
He doesn't hold it. How do you know? Because he holds that every Tanai has to be a double Tanai. Like B'nei Gad B'nei Ruven. If it's not a B'nei Gad B'nei Ruven, it's not a good Tanai. That means that if you only said one side, you don't say I could derive the opposite. Someone makes a contrast. If you don't, one.
So the mission's not here.
So the mission not Rav Meir. Okay, what's the other choice? It's Rav Yehuda. That's going to be the continuation. Could it be Rav Yehuda? So far the Gemara says can't be Rav Meir. Rav Yehuda. Okay, that's fine. Rav Yehuda holds that you don't have to have tonight B'nei Gad B'nei Ruven. You don't have to have a double condition. You can say one condition if you
have one condition, derive the rest.
Right, derive the rest. If you don't pay by the 15th, the sale is off. You can derive that if you do pay by the 15th, the sale is on. But what's the problem? Because you can't say our Mishnah is Rav Yehuda, because Rav Yehuda doesn't talk in our Mishnah until the last words. If you go back to the Mishnah, let's scroll back a second. Here it was that the whole Mishnah spoke, and then the last line, Rav Yehuda said, that means Rav Yehuda was not the speaker until now. If you say that he's the author of our Mishnah, then he was already talking before. That's the Morris Kasha. I'm a sefer. That means with the sefer Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda wasn't talking till now. So in order to answer the Kasha, it has to be Rav Yehuda, because he's the one who holds Machlal B'at Hashem. The Gemara answers, "Cool, Rav Yehuda." We could say the whole Mishnah is Rav Yehuda, and why didn't he speak until now? Vachi Katani. Sheh Rav Yehuda Omer Omi Yerushalayim V'Omer Klan. Put in the shin, not Rav Yehuda Omer, but Sheh Rav Yehuda Omer. That the Mishnah says that if he says Ki Yerushalayim is good. Good means that it takes effect, because Rav Yehuda says that Yerushalayim is not good, but you could derive that if he said Ki Yerushalayim it is good. So that's what the Mishnah meant to say. The Mishnah is Rav Yehuda talking, and it says Ki Yerushalayim is a good neder, the korban. Why? Because Rav Yehuda says that Yerushalayim is not good. So we see from Rav Yehuda that Ki Yerushalayim is good. So we're happy to say the Mishnah is Rav Yehuda, everything's fine. The Gemara is a kasha still, 4 lines up. Could you say our Mishnah is Rav Yehuda? And if he says Ki Yerushalayim, it is Asa. It does become a neder b'korban. But Tanya Abida Omer Omer Ki Yerushalayim Omer Klum. Achi Yoda B'Davar Korbi Yerushalayim. Akori Yerushalayim. That he says beferish in the Brisa against our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that Ki Yerushalayim is a good neder b'korban. Ki Yerushalayim is Ki Yerushalayim. Abida the Brisa says no. You have to say B'Davar Korbi Yerushalayim. Just saying Ki Yerushalayim doesn't mean the korbanos that are brought in Yerushalayim. It means like Yerushalayim, there's not enough. It has to be the Davar Aktori Yerushalayim, the things, the animals that are offered in Yerushalayim. So he argues down the Mishnah. Can you say Abida is talking? The Gemara answers, last line, Pull Rav Yehuda, Trey Tanoi, Rav Yehuda. we're still keeping to our position that the Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda and Sheh Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and therefore the Mishnah makes sense that it goes according to Rabbi Yehuda that holds Machal about the Shemei. You have a problem that a Brisa says differently. The Brisa argues. The Brisa holds that according to the argument according to Rabbi Yehuda holds. Our Brisa holds according to Rabbi Yehuda Kibbutz Shalayim is not a B'korban, and the Brisa says Kibbutz Shalayim is not good enough. You have to say Akdover Akored Kibbutz Shalayim, but that's okay. There's Machlokas what Rabbi Yehuda holds, but you must say our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda because according to Rabbi Meir, you wouldn't say Machal about the Shemei and to say Lo Chulin and Lo Kosher. All these things Rabbi Meir would say is not another B'korban because you don't derive. You don't want the implication. You don't say that it implies. And
In our Mishnah, how did Rabbi Yehuda hold? At first, we thought that it meant that he didn't, that if you said he, it's not good.
No, we didn't think so. Why did we think? At what point did we think so? The Mishnah says Kibbutz.
Because if you said Yerushalayim lo markum, oh, that means it's good.
Because you didn't say Ki Yerushalayim. And we want to say that the line where it says Ki Yerushalayim is a good neder.
It's good, but the Brisa says the other.
The Brisa says not. That's a machlokas. Adkan. Yes, everybody. Thank you. We'll be back.